Tonight, we delve into the remarkable life and uncomfortably specific career of a man whose ambitions came with a devastating catch. You are born in a dusty village so remote from Beijing that maps hesitate to acknowledge it. It's a place where chickens roam freely, elders yell at clouds, and your family's fortune consists of a single bowl, 2 chopsticks, and a shared suspicion of happiness. Your father is a farmer. Your mother is also a farmer, but with more scolding and fewer breaks. You're the third son, the dynastic equivalent of a spare tire necessary in theory, but mostly forgotten until disaster strikes. You aren't named right away. That costs money. Instead, you're called Little Third, which sounds affectionate until you realize your brothers are first ox and second pig. Not exactly a family of poets. Life is simple. You chase ducks, eat rice when it's available, and learn early that the world does not revolve around you, comfort, or privacy. Your home is a one-room hut, filled with relatives and the constant hum of domestic disappointment. No one here speaks of dreams, only the weather and the price of cabbage. Your village has 1 scholar, 1 goat, and a constant churn of about 20 rumors. One rumor speaks of a distant place called the Forbidden City, a palace so vast it has its own weather, filled with gold, secrets, and people who never farm. You hear this story while chewing on a stalk of raw millet, trying to imagine a roof made of yellow tiles. Then comes the year of the drought. The crops shrivel, the river sulks, and your father starts looking at you like a merchant eyeing unused stock. You're old enough to carry water, but too young to argue. That's when the man arrives, an official-looking fellow with soft shoes and softer hands, claiming he can give you a future. Your parents smile politely. You don't understand the deal being struck, only that it involves you, your pants, and the long journey somewhere big. You think you're being sent to learn. Technically, you are. You're about to learn that being born a nobody was just the opening act. The main event will cost you everything below the waist. It begins with the absence of a bowl of rice. Your family hasn't eaten properly in weeks. Your mother grinds acorns into something suspiciously called porridge, and your father stares at a patch of dry earth as if willing it into gold. The village whispers of famine, and in the quiet panic, your family takes inventory of its assets. There is no livestock, no land, no heirlooms, but there is you. A third son is a luxury in hard times. First ox is being groomed to inherit the shovel. Second pig is betrothed to the neighbor's daughter, a feral girl with strong elbows and a goat-like scream. You've shown promise at carrying water and not asking questions, a dangerous combination when your parents hold hushed late-night talks. One morning, the man returns. You've seen him before, dressed like a bureaucratic crane with his robes, smug smile, and delicate, uncalloused hands. He brings coins, not many, just enough to be insulting if they weren't in exchange for you. You imagine you're going to study, perhaps become a monk. Maybe this is your big break, a dramatic rags-to-riches arc, like in the traveling puppet plays, where the youngest son becomes a hero. Then your mother hugs you, tighter and longer than usual. Your father can't meet your eyes. You are sold, not into slavery that would be shameful. This is service, an opportunity. The kind of selfless parental act that will be wept over at your funeral, assuming anyone remembers your name. You leave the village with a small bag, a lump in your throat, and the faint hope that this won't be as bad as it sounds. You're just going to the capital after all. Big walls, fancy clothes, a new life. No one has told you about the knife. No one has mentioned that this is not just about labor, but a transformation involving blood, bureaucracy, and a lifetime of high-pitched silence. As the village disappears behind you, so does your boyhood. You are no longer a child. You are an investment. You always assumed the talk would happen at puberty. An ancient uncle might pull you aside, spit on the ground, and mumble something confusing about women, grain alcohol, and untrustworthy goats. Instead, this version involves a stern man in official robes and a scroll heavy with red stamps. You're in the capital now. The forbidden city looms in the distance like a golden hallucination. But you're not there yet. You're in a holding facility, part orphanage, part barracks, part ominous waiting room. The other boys are just as silent, just as confused, and just as unprepared. Then he arrives. He's a middle-aged eunuch with a voice so high it could kill songbirds, and a face carved into a permanent frown. He carries himself like a man who has endured much and would prefer to remember none of it. "Boys," he begins, "you have been chosen for a life of service." It sounds almost honorable. You will be purified. And there it is. No diagrams, no gentle metaphors, just the facts, delivered with the cold efficiency of a tax collector. The procedure is necessary, you are told, for your safety and the stability of the empire. The emperor's harem is sacred, and men with, shall we say, enthusiastic equipment are considered a risk. One boy faint. Another runs but is gently reminded by two guards in the courtyard that this is not a democracy. You try to listen, but your ears ring around the phrase complete removal. There is mention of a jar, which is somehow worse. Apparently, you'll be expected to keep the contents like a cursed souvenir, or a deeply unfortunate paperweight. The tour concludes with a final reminder. This is the beginning of a noble path. Very noble. You're to be cut, cleaned, and sent to serve the most powerful man in China, all while being chemically incapable of enjoying even the tiniest perks of palace life. As the boys file out in stunned silence, you realize one thing. That was not the talk you were expecting. The procedure isn't scheduled. It just happens. One moment, you're chewing a stale steamed bun, trying to ignore the whispers from boys who've heard things. The next, your name is called, and two attendants escort you to a room that smells of vinegar, fear, and misplaced ambition. The cutting room is clean, with the first red flag. There's a low table, a basin, a few cloths, and a man who looks like he's been doing this since the Tang Dynasty. He's the surgeon, though no one uses the word. He doesn't introduce himself or ask how you're feeling. He just nods once like a butcher inspecting a mildly disappointing pig. Then comes the tea, a bitter herbal brew set to calm the spirit. It does the opposite. Your spirit is now wide awake, pacing the walls of your skull and screaming. The next part is a blur, partly from shock, partly because your brain has the good sense to temporarily check out. There's a cloth gag, a warm compress, and then the moment. A cut, a tug, an absence. You don't scream. Screaming wastes energy and makes you look unsophisticated. You breathe through your nose and clutch the table like it's the last piece of wood on a sinking ship. It's over in minutes, but it echoes for eternity. You're handed a small, delicately wrapped ceramic jar. No one explains what to do with it, only that you must keep it safe. Some eunuchs bury it. Others pray for it. A few throw it in the river and never speak of it again. You stare at the jar and wonder how something so small could be the toll for entering a palace. Recovery is worse. You lie on your side for days, forbidden from eating anything interesting. Not that the porridge was ever a thrill. Older eunuchs tell you jokes that aren't funny and stories that sound suspiciously fictional. You pretend to smile because frowning takes too much effort. Eventually, the pain dulls, and you are upright again. But something has shifted, not just physically, but your place in the world. You have paid the toll. You have passed the gate. You are no longer a boy from the provinces. You are a eunuch in the making. Congratulations. You've been cut, cauterized, and officially inducted into the most exclusive, least envied institution in the empire, the Eunuch Academy. It's not a traditional school. There are no cheerful teachers or group photos, but there are endless scrolls, rules, and men who look like they've consumed nothing but duty and disappointment for 20 years. Your classmates, all boys in varying stages of trauma, shuffle around like ghosts in training. No one smiles, no one jokes. Occasionally, someone asks for their mother. No one answers. Your first lesson is silence. You learn to speak rarely, bow precisely, and always keep your eyes down. The palace does not tolerate mistakes, especially from those who are technically no longer men. Your usefulness now depends entirely on your ability to become invisible until needed. Then there's the walking. Apparently, you've been walking wrong your entire life. There's a whole class on how to move gracefully through the Forbidden City, not too fast, not too slow, and never ever squeaking your shoes. The master of walking is a tiny eunuch with the gait of a floating cloud and the emotional warmth of a tax audit. You're also taught to read and write properly this time. Calligraphy isn't just about elegance. It's about proving you're refined enough to handle palace documents without accidentally starting a war. Then comes etiquette. Bowing to nobles, superiors, and other eunuchs. There is so much bowing, you begin to conduct conversations entirely from waist level. You're warned never to look directly at the emperor or empress unless instructed. If you're caught gawking at a concubine, you might find yourself mysteriously reassigned to latrine duty. Graduation isn't a ceremony. There is no diploma. One day, your instructor simply says, "You're ready," with the enthusiasm of someone announcing a cabbage harvest. And just like that, your name is added to a list of eunuchs competent enough to enter the Forbidden City, the Gilded Cage, the Imperial pressure cooker, the world behind red walls. You have passed the first phase. You have learned the rules. Now you will serve. The gates open, and suddenly you are no longer in China. You are inside the lungs of the dragon itself, The Forbidden City is not just a palace. It is a labyrinth of red lacquered walls, golden roofs, courtyards so vast they have their own microclimates, and halls so quiet you can hear your self-worth evaporate. You step over the threshold and immediately feel smaller, like a dumpling in an imperial banquet. There is no warm welcome, no mentor with a name tag. There is only your handler, a senior eunuch with the personality of a judgmental teapot, who mutters, "Keep up," without looking back. You struggle to keep up. The first courtyard alone is large enough to stage a rebellion, with room left over for a tea ceremony. You trot to catch up, praying no one notices your shoes squeak slightly. You've been warned about squeaking. It is the sound of failure. As you walk, you are bombarded by sights. Concubines gliding past like living paintings, scholars muttering about rice allocations, and guards who look at you as if you've already broken something valuable. Your first task is dusting the Hall of Literary Glory. It seems simple until you realize the dust includes flakes of gold leaf, pigeon feathers, and the silent judgment of 10 generations of emperors. You are handed a brush, told not to sneeze, and left alone with a floor so shiny it reflects your new eunuch haircut with cruel accuracy. Midway through, a nobleman strolls by. You freeze. Not bowing could get you reassigned to chamberpot duty. Bowing incorrectly could also get you reassigned. You execute what you hope is a subtle, elegant bow. He doesn't notice. You live another hour. Lunch is a quiet affair. A bowl of lukewarm congee and a small plate of pickled mystery. You eat fast. There's no time for digestion when etiquette is breathing down your neck. By sunset, your legs ache. Your back is locked in a permanent, polite stoop. And you've bowed so much, your spine now bends on command. But you made it through day one. No arrests, no mistakes, no squeaking. You are officially inside, and the palace of whispers, silk, and secrets has just noticed you. In the Forbidden City, everyone is ranked. Eunuchs, concubines, officials, even the ducks in the Imperial pond. They all have a status. The difference is the ducks don't care. You, however, are about to become intimately familiar with the pecking order, and you are not near the top. Your initial rank is roughly new guy who might still cry at night. You are junior to everyone, even the eunuch who talks to birds and occasionally forgets where he lives. He still has seniority. The hierarchy isn't written down, it's absorbed, like mold in an old scroll. You quickly learn that the man with the shinier robe gets the first bowl of congee. The one with embroidered slippers probably controls access to something important, like the Empress's chamber. The ones who stroll instead of scurry are dangerous. Avoid eye contact. There are rankings among eunuchs based on their departments. Laundry eunuchs are low tier and permanently damp. Kitchen eunuchs are slightly better. They smell of duck fat and have access to leftovers. The record keepers are respected, if boring. But the true elite are the inner court eunuchs, the ones who serve the emperor directly, whispering in his ear and somehow always looking mildly unimpressed. Of course, you're not there yet. You're assigned to chamber duties, the polite term for sweeping, fetching, and not asking questions. You are handed a broom, a brass key, and a firm warning not to touch anything that looks imperial, which includes almost everything. Despite lacking certain parts, you still feel the drive to impress. You keep your head low, speak only when summoned, and bow so often your spine starts filing complaints. Every so often, a rumor floats by a fellow eunuch promoted to the emperor's quarters, another reassigned to serve the grand eunuch, or worse, exiled to the stables after a mishap with spilled soup and the noble's silk shoes. And yet you persist. You survive the first week without scandal. You memorize the faces of your superiors, the best paths to avoid being noticed, and how to bow with exactly the right amount of regret. Your rank is low, but you are learning. And in the Forbidden City, knowledge, even for one such as you, is power. The moment arrives. You are summoned to serve in the presence of the Son of Heaven, the Emperor himself. This is the apex of your career, the peak of imperial service, and the riskiest proximity to absolute power since someone handed Caligula a horse. You wake before sunrise and prepare as if for battle which, in a way, you are. One hair out of place, one awkward cough, one ill-timed sneeze, and you might find yourself reassigned to the Imperial pig pens, a place even the pigs consider beneath them. Serving the Emperor is a performance of practiced invisibility. You don't speak, you don't blink too loudly, you don't exhale with an opinion. You glide behind him like a respectful shadow, anticipating needs you're not allowed to confirm. Today's assignment: pouring tea. It seems easy until you remember that the Emperor's teacups are made of porcelain thinner than regret, and the tea leaves are measured with more ceremony than a royal wedding. The water temperature must be perfect, not too hot, lest it offend the Emperor's chai. Not too cold, or you'll be blamed for disrupting his cosmic balance and possibly his digestion. You lift the kettle, you breathe, you pour. No splashes, no drips. You've done it. You're halfway through congratulating yourself internally when the Emperor shifts slightly, a mere twitch of his eyebrow. You freeze, still holding the kettle. What did it mean? Was the tea too bitter, too weak? Did he catch your unsettling reflection in the porcelain? Then, without a word, the Emperor sips. No reaction. A good sign, perhaps. You bow and exit, walking backward with the grace of someone mentally replaying every micro-movement for signs of treason. Once out of sight, you exhale for the first time in 10 minutes. Serving the Son of Heaven requires the balance of a crane, the silence of a falling leaf, and the bladder control of a monk in the sandstorm. You are no longer a person, you're a presence, or rather, the absence of one. But you didn't sneeze. And in the Forbidden City, that is a triumph. One of the many paradoxes of being a eunuch is that you are simultaneously invisible and everywhere. You're not supposed to exist in the room, yet you're the one refilling tea, adjusting lanterns, and pretending not to notice Lady Plum Blossom's sobbing over a crushed love letter, while her rival, Lady Osmanthus, smirks behind a fan. You become fluent in the dialect of silence, a glance, a sigh, the subtle ways someone adjusts their hairpin while lying. You learn more about the inner lives of concubines, princes, and imperial cousins than you ever wanted to, not out of curiosity, but because palace gossip is louder than any official decree. Let's talk about pillow talk. No, not yours. You, my friend, are as far from pillow privileges as a rooster at a vegetarian banquet. But you are expected to clean up after the nightly dramas, both literal and emotional. Love triangles, betrayals, pregnancy scares with heavy political implications. Even poetry contests disguised as romantic overtures. You are not involved, of course, but you are the one burning the poems afterward. Sometimes you're stationed just outside a curtain, fanning the emperor and his consort. You keep your eyes politely lowered, your ears diplomatically open, and your expression set to, "I am a decorative fern." Do not laugh, not even internally. One eunuch snorted during a recitation of love verses and now tends to koi ponds in a distant province, presumably still chuckling. Some eunuchs weaponize the secrets they gather, trading information up the ladder for promotion or immunity. But that game is dangerous. The wrong whisper in the wrong ear could have you reassigned, investigated, or accidentally tripping down a flight of stairs no one remembers building. Your job is to know everything and show nothing. You are a ghost with keys, a servant with a front row seat to the world's most delicate soap opera, scripted in silk and sealed with jade. And while the lovers burn with passion and power games, you polish the candelabra and try not to imagine what might have been. Had you been born into a different life, with all your parts intact? But hey, the tea is hot, the gossip is hotter, and you are still alive. Call it a win. By now, you have seen things, heard things, and cleaned up after things you hope never make it into the official chronicles. You, humble eunuch, know everything. Who is sleeping with whom? Which concubine feigns fainting for attention? Which imperial cousin writes love poems to himself and leaves them in public corridors by accident? And with that knowledge comes power, not the sword-wielding, throne-usurping kind. No, yours is the subtle, velvet-gloved kind, the power of a well-timed eyebrow, a whisper that turns heads, a conveniently forgotten message. You have become the whisper between whispers. You know which tea the emperor drinks when he's anxious. You know which official secretly fears birds. You even know where the empress's favorite hairpin is really buried. Spoiler, it was never lost. Someone got annoyed. But you are still a eunuch, so you cannot wield power like a prince. You wield it like a draft invisible, but able to shift the entire mood of a room. Need something done? You know the kitchen eunuch whose cousin works in the archives. Need a note delivered discreetly. You know which palace maid has a soft spot for forbidden poetry. Need a scandal squashed? You know exactly how to misfile a report so it disappears for 6 months. Of course, this also makes you dangerous, which is both thrilling and terrifying, mostly terrifying. You develop a new skill, plausible deniability. You never say things outright. You imply them with grace. You master the art of looking surprised by your own brilliance. You don't say, "Minister Wang, I had no idea your nephew was secretly meeting Lady Fragrance at midnight near the Peony Pavilion. What a coincidence that I found this embroidered handkerchief there." Information now flows to you. People seek you out, not for your looks, obviously, but for your uncanny ability to know. You have become the court's most valuable appliance, like a teapot, but full of secrets. And though you walk softly, bow often, and smile humbly, Everyone knows not to cross you not because you're allowed, but because you never have to be. You have made yourself indispensable. And in the Forbidden City, that is more powerful than a title, a sword, or a concubine's smile. You may not have your manhood, your surname, or your own chambers with windows, but you have a graduate level education in staying alive in the most cutthroat political jungle east of the Himalayas. Welcome to Political Survival 101, Eunuch Edition. Step 1. Never be the smartest person in the room, even if you are, especially if you are. Nothing gets a eunuch reassigned to latrine inventory faster than making a grand secretary feel like a decorative scroll. Step 2. Appear loyal, not useful. Loyal eunuchs get promoted. Useful eunuchs get blamed when things go wrong. The trick is to walk the tightrope of being just helpful enough, with a touch of "I'm too dim to plot anything sinister" in your expression. Step 3. Master the art of slow walking politically, not literally. A new policy is being drafted. Take your time reviewing it. Rumors are floating around. Wait 3 days before pretending to have heard them. Speed kills. So does eagerness. So does initiative. Step 4. Flatter strategically. A little praise for the Empress's eternal youth goes a long way. Just don't lay it on so thick that people suspect you're buttering her up like a dumpling wrapper. Remember, everyone here has daggers hidden in their compliments. Step 5. Rotate alliances like crops. Stay too close to one faction, and you'll get burned when they fall out of favor. Switch sides too often, and you're branded a weathercock. The sweet spot is to be trusted by all, loyal to none. You're not betraying people, you're redistributing loyalties. And above all, keep your face calm, your ears open, and your thoughts buried deeper than the Emperor's treasury. No smirking, no sighing, no expressions that could be interpreted as thinking. Your motto, I serve. Subtext, whoever's still standing. Failure in court politics means reassignment, disgrace, or exile. Success means staying precisely where you are, quietly gathering favors, and maybe, just maybe, getting a better robe color next season. You are not trying to win, you are trying not to lose. The Forbidden City doesn't remember its winners, but it definitely buries its losers in administrative silence. And so, with your best neutral smile, you nod at the passing minister and offer tea like your life depends on it, because it does. It turns out you don't need testosterone to climb the ladder. You need timing, subtlety, and the uncanny ability to pour tea without interrupting a treasonous conversation. Your rise begins quietly. First, you're placed in charge of the silk inventory. A small position, they say, but the Empress notices when her robes arrive smelling faintly of dumplings. You fix that. Suddenly, she remembers your name, or rather, she remembers you as the one with the quiet feet. Next, you're given control over the ceremonial fan rotation schedule. Again, not thrilling, but remember, the concubine fanned at the wrong angle during last year's autumn moon festival nearly caused a diplomatic incident. You avoid such disasters with military precision. Word gets around. Eventually, you're summoned to manage the Emperor's personal study, a room filled with scrolls, secrets, and the occasional forgotten concubine napping under the calligraphy table. You organize it all discreetly, and in doing so, you learn even more. At some point, you're no longer that eunuch with the polite cough. You become master of the robes, or keeper of the keys, or overseer of the Imperial seal polishing rotation. The title doesn't matter, it's the access. You now touch the threads that tie the palace together. Ministers nod to you in corridors. Concubines slip you notes. Servants straighten their posture when you pass, as if posture matters after castration. But hey, perception is everything. You've climbed the greasy ladder of court hierarchy without breaking a sweat, mainly because sweating in silk is a social crime, punishable by exile to broom closet duty. Of course, the higher you rise, the thinner the air and the sharper the knives. You develop new instincts, like how to spot a poisoned mango or detect sarcasm in a royal command. You've reached the realm of real influence, the shadowy layer beneath the dragon throne. And all without raising your voice, your hand, or any children. Your voice is still high. Your dignity is negotiable. Your power is absolute in the most unofficial way possible. It's ironic. You were physically diminished to be less of a man. And yet here you are, quietly running the most dangerous chessboard in the empire. All rise for the eunuch. You survive in the Forbidden City, not by sprinting ahead, but by not being the one who falls behind. And lucky for you, others do plenty of that gloriously, publicly, and sometimes with a very audible thud. It starts with whispers, a misplaced document, a concubine's complaint, a poem interpreted a little too politically. Suddenly, Minister Chen is taking a leave of absence to reflect on his errors, which is court speak for he hasn't been seen since Tuesday. You learn to recognize the signs, the sudden drop in lacquered smiles, guards appearing where they normally don't, the eunuch shuffle where someone who had power yesterday now carries incense sticks and avoids eye contact. You watch from the shadows as others trip on their own ambition. The loud ones go first, those who mistake the emperor's chuckle for immunity. The poetic ones usually follow. Apparently, metaphor is charming only until someone mistakes it for sedition. And then come the eunuchs, yes, your colleagues. Trusted confidence one day, reassigned to pigsty sanitation the next. All it takes is a misinterpreted nod or an intercepted note. One poor soul was demoted because he coughed right as the emperor sneezed. Suspicious timing, indeed. You master the art of the strategic absence. When tempers rise, you are tending to the tea inventory. When scandal breaks, you are fetching scrolls. You never laugh too hard, never frown too deep. Your emotions are as trimmed as your future always was. And when your rival finally falls, that smug eunuch who always wore his sash too tight and quoted Confucius as if he wrote it himself, you don't smile. You offer condolences sincerely. Then you immediately check who is inheriting his duties and which door they forgot to lock. Because in the Forbidden City, every downfall leaves a vacuum. And while power abhors a vacuum, you love one. Especially if it comes with a window-facing chamber and upgraded ceremonial slippers. You didn't push them, you simply outlasted them. And as another official is led away for review, you sip your tea, nod politely, and pretend not to notice the guard swapping nameplates. It's not about being innocent. It's about being uninteresting. For now. After decades of silent nods, perfectly timed tea pours, and never once getting credit for stopping 3 coups with a single eyebrow raise, you have made it to the final boss level of eunuchdom, retirement, or at least the theory of it. You see, there is no formal gold watch ceremony in the Forbidden City. No pension, no speech, no heartfelt hugs. Just one morning, if you're lucky, you are told your service is no longer required, which, in Imperial phrasing, is both a reward and a mild threat. The surviving few who make it that far are a strange bunch, a living museum of who not to cross. Some shuffle off to temple service, their robes smelling faintly of incense and long-held secrets. Others retreat to modest villas paid for with untraceable favors and gifts they were definitely not supposed to accept. And some, the truly paranoid, stay not working, just hovering, offering unsolicited advice and smiling at court dinners like ghosts with unpaid debts. You, however, are playing it smart. You have arranged a small estate far enough from the capital that rumors don't travel, but close enough to hear when someone important dies. You don't need to be in the game anymore. You just need to hear it being played. Still, retirement is no paradise. You wake at 5 o'clock a.m. out of habit. You find yourself correcting your servant's posture. You wince when someone pours tea clockwise. It's like muscle memory mixed with trauma. Call it Imperial PTSD. The irony. After years of sacrificing everything family, identity, anatomy, your reward is peace. Not joy, not fame, just the absence of threat. No one is trying to poison your noodles. No one is plotting behind curtains. No one is mistaking your silence for subversion. But some nights, you miss it. The tension, the gossip, the way a well-placed nod could change a dynasty. So you sit under your plum tree, sipping tea still hot, still silent, and wonder how the next eunuch is doing back at court. Probably sweating. Poor lad is probably using the wrong fan schedule. You smirk, not out of cruelty, but out of graduation. You have outlived politics, and in the Forbidden City, that makes you royalty. Almost. In the grand tale of Chinese dynasties, emperors are etched in stone, generals are sung in operas, and concubines are immortalized in painted screens. And eunuchs. We are the soft thread stitched into the palace silk, hidden, essential, forgotten by name, but not by impact. You never had children. You weren't supposed to. But you mentored 3 generations of courtiers, trained countless tea pourers to avoid splashback scandals, and once prevented a civil war by suggesting the emperor take a nap. That counts for something. Your legacy isn't in portraits. Those were reserved for people with, well, testicles. But every scroll you archived, every secret you buried beneath layers of etiquette, every crisis you averted with a and a strategic eyebrow raise, those rippled through history. Years later, a minor official publishes a best-selling treatise on palace management. He thanks a mysterious advisor whose silence was his wisdom. That was you. Not that anyone will ask. You bequeath your modest estate to a monastery. They build a quiet garden in your honor, nothing too grand. Just a stone bench beneath a plum tree, inscribed with a proverb so vague that even scholars argue about its meaning. Your name disappears from the records, but the systems you created, the networks you wove, the art of surviving power without wielding it remain. Some whisper your name in court when problems are solved too efficiently. Others claim you never existed, a legend invented by anxious junior eunuchs to explain why no one dares reorganize the seal cabinet. Either way, you've done it. You carved influence out of silence, rose without force, and became indispensable by being ignorable as a masterpiece of presence by absence. So in your final years, as you sip jasmine tea under that old plum tree, you think back on it, all the pain, the politics, the secrets, and you chuckle. Not bad for someone everyone expected to fade quietly into the silk. History may not shout your name, but it echoes your footsteps in every polished hallway and every whispered counsel. And in the Forbidden City, that is immortality.